Hello everybody, my name is Alan Lloyd. To return home to the fortune, there is a figure in the sun. But if the sun boss itself into the transcode system, it will formulate into one. The door to heaven based upon the machine for Dr. T. Sandra is the realignment of time for the sun. The sun may burst to tears to heaven based upon the machine. If the machine is Bell 1 F215 by the border, the third moon will switch off to the mode of the Anuna. In that day it is a conjunction. The conjunction of the Purana will listen out the door to heaven based upon the machine. The machine is Bell 2 F315. For my brother Kung, the democracy of law based upon implementation of the network is a phase, PHASE, in relation to the consumption. The consumption of the electricity, ah, no, later. In the day of the form, it will form into the co-function, because in that day it is the message of the compound to position itself into the acceptance. Once upon a time there is no one in to look for the code. It is BEF215. The BEF215 by the border is a third moon to develop the third technology. In that way it is the realignment of time. The realignment of time for my brother town, it is democracy of law based upon implementation of a network. It will be fired out into the phase, PHASE. The inclusion of the formula will propagate into the third dimension. Each third dimension of the element will send the sun through. So Dr. T. Sandra, in relation to my hand movement, the door of the phase, PHASE, is the co-function of the prefix. In that time, the prefix will work out the door to heaven based upon the machine. The machine will confunction itself into the door to heaven, and in that way it is the gesture. The gesture of the realignment of time for the sun is born in to do it in relation to the co-function, and in that day it is 10324. Okay, one of my picture that I took is the palm or the hand. Next time there will be a gesture. Yes, Dr. T. Sandra Parkinson. So in that time, when it does that, it will overlay itself into the third performance. If the network of 324 in relation to the third development of technology, it will position itself into the acceptance. Once upon a time, there is no one in to look for the code. It is the B5F214. The B5F314 is the dimension of the third moon to switch off to the mode of the artificial intelligence. Each artificial intelligence will work out the door to heaven based upon the machine. The machine is BEF215. In that day, Dr. T. Sandra is a realignment of time for the Morris Blackburn to have the phases PHESES in relation to the co-function, and in that time it is the co-function. The co-function of the Purana will listen out the door to heaven based upon the machine. The machine of the thinking pattern will restart itself in a few days in relation to the conclusion. That conclusion of the element will send the sun through. If the sun bursts to tears to heaven based upon the machine, it will overlay itself into the third way in to control the majority of law based upon the messages of the compound to position itself into the acceptance. Once upon a time, in relation to the third moon, it would switch off into the interna, or the intellect, or the interlude, or the co-function, or ah, in the three phases, PHASE, it is the co-function of the realignment for Dr. T. Sandra. In that time, it will work out the bore of 1134 for my brother Kung for the sun. It may have a hay, Hay, in relation to the co-function. Each hay, Hay, is a co-viewing itself into the evolution of time for the sun. The sun will burst into heaven based upon the antenna, and in that time it is three words: the conclusion, the element, the fun, F-U-N-D. In that time, the evolution of time will send the sun through. If the sun bursts to heaven based upon the machine, it will all lay itself into the third way in. The conclusion of the element will send the sun through. If it bursts to heaven based upon the wiki piggy, it will perform into one. Next time I will start the next wiki in relation to the encyclopedia. Because in the encyclopedia for Justin Fox, it is the handwriting of the draft for the calligraphy. Each calligraphy is the measurement of time for the Buddhism to send the sun through. And in that day, when it does that, it will have the wavetron in relation to the transformers. In Bart Simpson, it is the third sun to divert into the spirit of the moon, and to divert into the spirit of the moon, and to divert into the transfund. Each transfund is a program of 834 for the position of the police army. In that time, it is the Tashkemang. The Tashkemang is a lawyer of 3 on 2, 4 on 1, and 10 on 4 by the border. In that day it is 10324. The confunction of the piranha will listen out the door to heaven based upon the machine. The machine would orlay itself in the third way in, and in that way the automatic movement would begin. Namo Adi Dawa. When it does that, you will see the spirit of the moon in the star.